Now, as my career progressed, I learned that it is not always money or title that is important, but instead feeling valued, feeling that you are making a contribution. I was Assistant Director of Housing at BU. I stayed there for 6 years. I then took a chance, became the Director of Residence Life at Simmons College because I wanted to lead something. I knew I had a lot of energy and a lot of ideas, so I moved from a very comfortable position at BU. After 1 year on the job at Simmons, Boston University came back to me and asked me to come back in a much bigger job and with $10,000 more in salary. So think of 1979, $10,000 was a lot of money. And guess what I did? I said no, because I loved Simmons. What I loved about it, it was a caring, nurturing woman's environment. So I realized very young, I think I was 31 years old, that money did not matter, that it was the environment and the feeling that I was making a contribution that was important. I never told my boss or anybody at Simmons about BU coming back and approaching me. But at the end of my first year, which was a tough year because I had to make some critical changes in staffing that the president, the vice president, and dean really had been trying to do for several years, they upped my salary significantly. Now, it wasn't $10,000, but that little bit of money made me work that much harder and be that much more loyal to Simmons. So I loved working at Simmons. But again, for you, for me, the lesson was that it wasn't the money. It wasn't the title in a bigger university. It really was my happiness, my feeling that I could contribute. So the lesson is to choose the culture in which you work very carefully, because you will find that match and advancement will definitely follow. After Simmons, I followed my husband to Washington, D.C. This was a critical moment in my career path that really did change my life. That vice president, president, and dean created a new position for me as associate dean of the college at Simmons. And here I just accepted it. It was March. It was going to start in July. And in May, my husband got his brass ring in Washington, D.C. So what do you do? I said to my boss, I'll stay 1 year, but I have to follow my husband to Washington. And what I did in that 1 year is I learned as much as I could possibly learn about being an associate dean. I followed my husband. I commuted every weekend and earned a lot of frequent flyer miles. But I followed my husband, went into Washington, D.C., could not find a job in higher ed. That broke my heart. But I did find a job, and this is another lesson. Through the newspaper, a blind ad was looking for someone to plan corporate seminars and MBA seminars for students from some of the top MBA programs in America on public policy. And I used my political science undergraduate degree and my education degree and convinced this membership organization called the Washington Campus that I could do it. And I started this job. My husband was doing a fabulous job at his organization, and I started my job and I worked as hard as I had worked at Simmons. But guess what? No matter how hard I worked, I could not satisfy my boss. She was a very talented woman, but I could not somehow reach her expectations. I was miserable, and I will share this, which I've shared with our one-day women at BAPAC. I cried every night leaving my job. It was that painful. Why? Because I had been successful my whole career. I had been able to contribute. I had been able to excel. And I couldn't, no matter what I did. About 10 months into the job, and I'm miserable. My husband said, "You've always wanted to go back to school." And I took a chance. I gave my boss 6 weeks notice. I didn't burn any bridges. I did it gracefully and with, I thought, dignity. Got her set for the summer, and I entered the American University for a PhD program. Now, I took a risk. At age 39, I took a risk and said, I don't know where this PhD is going to lead me, but I'm miserable doing what I'm doing, and I want to return to higher education. So sometimes out of adverse situations comes incredible opportunity. Because I got an assistantship, I was so happy as an adult student, and I really felt that I was on the right path. So, lesson number 4 is, if you do have an issue with a boss or you are unhappy in your situation, move on, because you will stay miserable. You'll probably make everybody around you miserable, including your family, who hurt as much as you do. Moving on, for me, was probably the most important thing I could have done in my career. And it launched me for all of the jobs I've had since then. But I had a very caring husband. And, you know, he was the one who said, take the chance. We can live on half of what we've always lived on, and we'll make it work, and we did. So climbing the ladder is not always a straight line. We sometimes take a detour because of a bad job experience, not the right fit, sensing we are not fulfilled. We risk something, but we may gain everything. So know that when your confidence on the job is attacked, I felt mine was, it has all sorts of negative implications for you as a person, as a contributing employer and employee. But in the end, we have the power of choice. We can be the CEOs of our own destinies, right? We have the choice to make about our own career advancement and success. So it's taking that chance and making the choice for yourself. Lesson number 5, never pass up the opportunity to consider something that you think is not within your grasp or in your time frame or in your family's plans. While I'm writing my dissertation, that vice president from Simmons College that obviously saw something in me as a young woman called and said, I am retiring. She was 70 years old. She said, I'm leaving Simmons, and the president and I would like you to take my job. Now think of this. My husband's got a great job. I'm writing a dissertation, and I'm like 6 months, I still have 6 months to go. And I said, no, I'm sorry, Priscilla, I can't return to Simmons. Noel has a great job, and I'm still writing my dissertation, and that is my top priority. But she was persistent. She flew to Washington with the president, and over dinner, convinced us that a move back might be a really good thing to do. Now, I don't know if any of you have husbands like mine. Some of you may not be married, but I have a husband that's an equal opportunity husband. He knew I gave up an incredible job. He gave up his job for me. He hired his successor, and we moved back to Boston, where I became the vice president of Simmons. I thought I was going to retire at Simmons College. It is a fabulous women's college. But he did that for me, and I had a fabulous career at Simmons. But I wasn't looking, and this sometimes will happen, I wasn't looking. I was in the right place, perhaps at the right time, and just right for that phone call that said, we want you. It wasn't in my, plan. I thought I was settled in Washington for probably 15 years, but I was fortunate enough that that profound decision to return to Simmons changed my career path. I loved working there. I worked there for 6 years, and then the Bay Path opportunity came, and I came to Bay Path in December of 1994. It's been the best job of my life, and obviously I've been here a long time, 16 years, so you need to know I relish every day I go to work. It's a job that's allowed me to work with colleagues who share my own passion for women's education. And together we have had some challenges, like taking a college with 500 students and dropping enrollment and creating new programs that would really focus on the mission of our institution, the advancement of women. And so through many great faculty and staff who came up with incredible ideas, we started the 1-day-a-week Saturday program, and our dean Dr. Gina Joseph Collins is here today. We started master's degrees, and you will hear soon when we launch our online completer degree that will be probably the only one for women in America, where women can be in Nevada and get a Bay Path College degree online. So know that I'm blessed to be in the type of creative environment that I am, and I'm blessed that I can work with colleagues who share my passion for women's education. So my last lesson, number 6, is, and I'm going to use a quote, that's been at the top of our stairs for 16 years, ever since I arrived at Bay Path. And ironically, the poet wrote it in 1994. In my dream, the angel shrugged and said, "If we fail this time, it will be a failure of imagination." And then she placed the world gently in the palm of my hand. The lesson here is that when the odds look daunting, use your creative imagination to think out of the box. Surround yourself with smart people who have good ideas. Imagine a better world and create it. And never look back. Look forward, taking full responsibility for whatever the consequences. For all of us, climbing the corporate ladder will be some luck of circumstance, but mostly the choices we make, the risks we're willing to take, the way we face adversity, the willingness to work hard, and the commitment to continually learn and improve our knowledge base. President Kennedy once said of education, and I think it's so apropos for the power of education, the theme today, let us think of education as the means of developing our greatest abilities, because in each of us there is a private hope and dream which, fulfilled, can be translated into benefit for everyone and greater strength for our nation. I truly believe that education in all its forms, both formal and informal, is critical to personal career success and to a thriving America. Knowledge is truly power. It certainly has been at the center of my life and career, and I hope it will always be a part of yours. Thank you for your patience and listening, and I certainly would be willing to answer any of your questions. Thank you so much. About 10 minutes, but if we leave early, Janet, it's okay, right? So there has to be somebody who has a question, and I will answer, as personal as it might be. I will answer it. Teresa, Terry.
Carol, just curious, at what young age did you begin wonderful husband?
At 23. We worked together. So, you know, when you work together, and I shared this in front of him, I didn't like him when I first met him. And you know, I have a dream of a husband, but no, I was dating somebody for 5 years through college, and then I started working, and I met Noel, and he worked in the same organization, and I really didn't like him. And it took about 5 or 6 months, and something happened, and the switch went off, and I looked at him in a very different way, and he said, so I went to him for counseling, and I said, what do? I think, you know, we might have something here, and I'm dating this other guy, and he said, drop the guy but keep the stereo. And I did. And so I was 23. I was 23. That was a good personal question, Terry. That was good. Yes, I know, I love it. Anything else? You know, I was 39 when I went back for my doctorate.